So it's great to be back in India. It's been a few years since I've been here, so I really appreciate the opportunity from Asia Retail Congress to be here and have an opportunity to be back in really one of the greatest countries. Especially when we think about retail, it's really amazing. So I named the title Amazon Mart, and the reason for that is Amazon has really obviously been an influential retailer in the marketplace, really right around the world. One of the things that we can do as we try to understand Amazon is to look at the roadmap that Amazon is leveraging. And that is a deconstruction of Walmart, its strategic choices and capabilities along the path. And so my goal here is to really help lay a framework around how to think about Amazon, whether they're a competitor for you or they're an important customer moving forward. So hopefully everyone's seen the flux capacitor. I built this slide on the way over, imagining that everyone would wonder, why is this guy with the long beard here addressing us? And so just a little bit about me. I've been working in the retail trade for around 25 years. I have worked on the private brand side of the business. I've worked on the branded side of the business, both on the global sourcing side, the sales side, and the supply chain side. And so I've spent a lot of time advising companies on how to understand big customers around the world, Carrefour, Casino, Macro, Metro, Walmart, of course, and how to adapt their practices to achieve their goals. And so that's really what today is about. I know it's early in the morning. It's kind of the first session. I had a lot of numbers that I wanted to try to talk through today, but I didn't just want to ramble them off. So I'm looking for a little bit of participation. By the way, am I speaking too fast? It's okay? Perfect. Okay. So you can just, if you have an answer, you're welcome to just yell it out. Does anyone know how many Prime subscriptions were active at the end of the year last year? 155 million. Any guesses on video subscriptions? 40 million. Music subscriptions? 55 million. Interesting numbers, meaningful numbers. Small for India, certainly, but meaningful numbers in and of themselves on the subscription platform. From an operations perspective, how many planes is Amazon operating today? They're at 50 planes right now, and they'll be moving to 70 over the next year. So it's really starting to develop a capability around air transport. This is a bit of an interesting question. So many of you probably saw that Amazon placed the largest electric vehicle order in history. They've ordered 100,000 electric vehicles between now and 2021. That's an interesting factoid. Seems like a lot. I kind of wondered, how many delivery vehicles worldwide does UPS have? Somebody, please make a guess. No? Okay. 123,000. Amazon is going to have 100,000 delivery vehicles in the United States, and UPS, including rickshaws, tuk-tuks, vans, mopeds, has 123,000 worldwide. That's pretty interesting. So as I get into the presentation a little bit, keep those numbers in the back of your mind. Those numbers in the back of your mind. I also want you to take note of this picture. It's a neighborhood. It could be here in India, it could be in Mexico, it could be in Europe, Madrid. It doesn't really matter. It's a neighborhood with shoppers and an address. Coming out of the presentation today, I hope that number one, you'll understand why this picture is important to Amazon, how they think about it. And I hope that will also, secondly, inform you in terms of how you need to think about their objectives and the decisions that they're making and how they're going to resource their organization so that you can address them in your own business. So I'm going to talk at the beginning here about Walmart. I was speaking with Diego, who's going to be speaking later, and he said, hey, I've actually been to Bentonville, Arkansas. Has anyone here been to Bentonville, Arkansas? There's another, two. Have many of you worked with Walmart either as a supplier or as a retailer or as an employee before? Only one. I'm surprised. I'm from Bentonville, Arkansas. That's where I live at. It's a hike over here, by the way. So to start with Walmart, for as long as I can remember, Walmart has talked to the investor community about the productivity loop. And that is the internal model that they use to describe all their strategic decisions. It's the lens through which they evaluate what is important in their business. And so if you haven't heard of it before, I want to describe it to you so you can understand what's important about it, as this is the fundamental for how Amazon now views their business. They've reimagined it. So we start out with operate for less. And what this really means is we're going to keep our operational costs low. I can remember Walmart buyers showing up at our offices and they would get a Coke and they would put a quarter on the table. Or they would be taking notes on a hotel notepad. They would talk about carrying their trash out at night as they walked out of the corporate office. And so really just a mentality around saving money, giving them a cost advantage. The second element is buy for less. And so their agenda there, as probably many in the room, their agenda is, I want a no-frills price. Not a lot of gobbledygook, services and fuzzy money. I just want to buy it and do with it as I will. And from there, they're going to price it in a way that they think they can sell more, thereby driving unit volume, and investing that back to the supplier to say, we've grown your unit volume, we've helped you scale, and we'd like to share a little bit of that in the upcoming year. This was advantageous for both. We'd like to have a little bit better opportunity. And as you can imagine, that model, by definition, drives investment dollars, it drives resourcing, it drives store operations, etc. And ultimately, it drives a mentality of, we want to provide the lowest price for a given product in our store. And I would say to you that Walmart in the United States, certainly through their supercenters, can deliver a kilo of anything cheaper than anyone to one of their stores. That's what the model produced. So let's talk about some of the key drivers that made that happen. This is where the magic really happens. Number one, we talked about having a frugal mindset and being cost conscious. That's a no-brainer. The second one is about the power of consolidation and warehousing. Walmart took an early position on building warehouses and reimagining how product would flow through those warehouses. They built a very strong distribution network. And it was really based on they wanted to be within 350 miles of any store. That way their drivers could go out and come back in one day. They built a fleet to take control of their distribution costs, improve their performance, ultimately drive down cost. And then in a sheer stroke of brilliance, they said, you know, we've got all these trucks carrying product, full trailers from our DCs out to our stores, but they're driving back empty. What if we went a little bit out of our way and stopped by a factory and picked up some product and carried it back to our warehouse? Wow, that would be pretty amazing. Probably get a lower cost because we're taking transportation out. And so retail backhaul was invented. That combination of those three things has really had an impact on all of our businesses around the world. We take it for granted today about how to leverage that network and optimize it. Walmart is invested in technology. We don't really think about it a lot, but their system, Retail Link, enables us as manufacturers to be able to see what's going on. It really created the concept of measuring every single thing, every movement, every touch, to drive down cost. I think the really amazing thing about Walmart is how they open the door. I shouldn't say about Walmart, but a getting out of the box that Walmart did was that's opening the door for the manufacturer to not just hand the product off to us as retailers, to just say, hey, you bought it, go do something with it. They really built a model where they invited us to come in, they invited us to participate in the process and care about what ultimately happened. And that's a pretty unique thing. Global sourcing, obviously that's a big part for all of us. Walmart has moved into the international arena, trying to drive scale in their business, trying to find opportunities to expand. And then lastly, I use the word adjacent businesses because when we talk about tech companies like Amazon, we talk about adjacent businesses, but for Walmart it was really about products. They said, can we get into payments? We need to get grocery in to drive turns in our business. So these 9 elements, when we look back at the history of Walmart, we look at their performance over time, we look at their relative success, we say, these 9 elements progress them forward. So I want to use that as a foundation for our discussion about Amazon, because Amazon has deconstructed these exact things. They've gone back and they've looked at what was the strategic imperative. They've tried to understand what choices could have been made. Most importantly, they've said, we have the opportunity to wipe the board clean and start afresh. What would this mean today? So, we have the Walmart productivity loop. As we now start to move in to talk about Amazon, we want to look at the graphic for them, and this is what they call the flywheel. It's very similar. Large part, it's very similar. A couple key differences here, though, are really on this bottom part of the curve. So we're expressly calling out customer experience. We're talking about traffic. Walmart talks a lot about traffic. It's an important part. But for Amazon, traffic means something a little different. And then lastly, sellers. Because Amazon, as you guys all know, really focuses on being a third-party platform. So that's something different. So struggled a little bit about how to transition from Walmart's core initiatives to Amazon, and I thought maybe a good way to go about this would just simply be to put up those 9 strategic values and have a little discussion about where did Amazon succeed? Where maybe they're not doing as well yet. Obviously, they're frugal. We all know the stories about Bezos and the rest of the team having doors on top of little table or for their desks, right? So we know they're frugal. Amazon now operates over 175 warehouses globally. That doesn't even include their port operations. It's a pretty big number. Amazon is reimagining what building a fleet looks like. As we talked about earlier, they have airplanes, they have intermodal, they're starting to work on backhaul a little bit. So we're starting to see them develop many of those same ideas. And of course, they're building out their own delivery vehicle network. I'm not even going to talk about Amazon investing in technology. We all know that that's a given in today's world. Probably the one that you guys are going to push back on me about is the engagement with suppliers. And I could have gone a couple directions on this, but ultimately I decided to fall on the side of they have reimagined what that looks like. They've done it in a different way. Walmart, the way I think about it is, they want you to participate insofar as they want to ensure that they have availability. They want to ensure that they have good pricing, right? It's really revolves around that supercenter, or has historically revolved around that supercenter mentality. Amazon has reimagined that. It's a good example where they've said, we want to help you engage, but to your shopper. And so they've leveraged a platform approach, as you guys probably know, on pay-per-click. And that's really about helping us as marketers engage more and care more about that traffic metric that we talked about. That's why I went that direction. I think it still remains to be seen what that looks like ultimately around sourcing, if it stays 3P or if it starts to move into more of a 1P or a focused 1P strategy. There's probably some development there. But that's why I believe that in large part they are creating a collaborative environment. Amazon, of course, is working on global sourcing. They don't have it figured out yet. They're working international, we know that, we see their investments, but they still seem to be feeling their way through. What is their objective going to be? They have different data that's available, they have different models that are available, and so I don't think we know yet where they're going. And then lastly, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we think about adjacent businesses because Amazon just continues to find synergistic elements to their model to grow into. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So I've used the word reimagining. So as I've talked to my clients, one of the things we talk about is what I call the value loop. And that's just taking their flywheel and pointing out the drivers within that flywheel so that our clients can understand it. And so when we talk about the lower cost structure, we really think about delivery vehicles, we think about Amazon Air, we think about what does a world of being able to cross-dock in ports, what does that look like for MOQs into a given country? Leveraging technology in those ports. Grocery is going to have a tremendous impact on Amazon. My next slide, I'm really going to drill in on this. I can't overstress the importance of grocery in this low-cost model. On the traffic side, I just want to layer in there for everyone that, yes, there is a subscription, of course, but those numbers that we talked about on the followers, it's really about giving more to the customer. And so where Walmart really thinks about, we want to provide a simple experience that you can walk into our box and you can find whatever you want, you can be confident that you have the lowest price. It's a slightly different end game for Amazon in that they want you to know that they're going to have what you want. It's going to be delivered to you at a good value. And they're going to provide you some other stuff that's going to simplify your life. It's going to save you some money. And so they're redefining that model. So I was going to hit this home with grocery. So you can remember the original picture here behind scale. It's the neighborhood, and it's the street and the houses. We've talked about the fleet. Our belief around the grocery model is that grocery is the traffic driver to enable the network optimization and ultimately realize the lowest cost per kilo to a door. If you're only selling coffee makers, it's challenging to know, will I have to go down this street It's tough to know that. How often do you buy a coffee maker? If you're building grocery into the transaction, you have to be on the street. That creates the supply chain network, the opportunity to consolidate in that network and give them the kind of leverage that Walmart has been able to produce with their fleet and their distribution network. And that's why we believe that there's such a strong investment around delivery. And once they achieve that, that's going to be a groundbreaking achievement, because now they will have realized the ability to deliver a pound of anything at the best price to the door. They'll be able to do returns off that because they're on the street. It opens the game a lot wider in our mind. So as you think about where does this take you, where does this take your company, I want to put it in just kind of a final context that Amazon in and of itself will not be the last, but is really the first globally scalable retail format. You guys are all retail experts, and so I would expect that many of you would say, hey, what about Lidl? I would give you that, but it's unproven to be able to scale because of the cost of land acquisition. So our belief is that Amazon is really the first company that once they get their model tuned, will be able to drop it in where they want and be able to achieve scale. In order to do that, they're working on getting the ubiquitous engagement at the street level. They're going to use grocery to be able to pull that together and drive that penetration. And in particular, they're reimagining what the world of consolidation looks like, literally if you were doing distribution on a global basis. All of this is to be able to replicate that supply chain efficiency, that delivery efficiency, and ultimately make it easy for the shopper. So in the end, what I really wanted to do was to give you a view and a framework to consider Amazon the competitor or Amazon the potential partner, to be able to understand and rationalize why they're making the decisions that they are, and a way to understand where they're going. And I would implore you to not wait to build that model in your mind, that framework in your mind of how to engage them. Hope this has been a useful conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you very much.